Hey, good evening, all. Thank you for joining me, Dorothea, on Through an Orthodox Christian Lens. It is December 15th, 2025. What's Patriarch Bartholomew's understanding and thoughts about the persecution of the canonical Ukrainian Orthodox Church after being one whose signature got the ball rolling on this whole thing? We'll get into that. I have the latest news for you. First, about Metropolitan Arseny from his court case. If you remember, he was supposed to have had a court case appeal on that a few days back. Well, it had, let me go into this. It had supposed internet Wi-Fi connection problems that cut out the lawyers who were waiting to join in a conference call. So a public defender type lawyer was thrown in with not much time, not enough really to go through all the materials in the case. Therefore, the court case was ultimately delayed indefinitely. So the Metropolitan continues to be detained indefinitely. Isn't that great? Terrible. Okay, so I'm going to show you here. He's handcuffed. Lord have mercy. He was brought to court in handcuffs. So this came out, I think today. So, December 15th. The hierarch was escorted by a 4-person guard as if he's some major, criminal. He was brought in handcuffs to a preparatory hearing. This must be a different thing. Of the, can't pronounce it, district court in Dnipro. Okay, so a video of the hierarch's arrival at the hearing was published on social media. So, and the press, this particular press was the one that did it. Okay, so the press service of the Ukrainian Orthodox Church commented on the situation, noting that the hierarch had earlier been denied hospitalization by the court. Well, as we said, it was escorted. Now, in the comments, readers compare the measures that have been applied to Metropolitan Arseny for a prolonged period with the treatment of individuals suspected of crimes whose public resonance has shaken not only Ukrainian society, but has also affected the country's image among its partner states. The statement by the EOC Information and Education Department says, well, here's the video. We'll see what it has here. Good grief. As if he's just this huge criminal. So this particular monastery published another video showing clergy and faithful attempting to support Metropolitan Arseny, joking about his chains.
Вот эти святыни есть уже. Потом надо их сохранить, берегать. Да, освященные. Будем прикладываться. Надо их подписать, номер такой. Слава Богу.
Okay. And as we know now they said it's indefinitely, but the newest thing here says, as the UOJ previously reported, the court had extended Metropolitan Arseny's detention in custody until February 2026. Yeah, that's his detention. As far as this court case, appeal, or whatever, it's indefinite. They don't even have a date for that. But they do have the custody, him being in custody till February 2026. Wow. Okay, let's get to what we are talking about on this. That's important to the title of this article, what has to do with the Patriarch Bartholomew, of course, and the Phanar. So let's get this out first. Former OCU cleric, organizers of UOC church seizures receive big money. Okay, so what he's saying is, this person's name is Yaroslav Yasenets. He spoke about the methods used by OCU clerics to seize UOC churches. So this is what he had said. He replied that they are considered very good people, considering Roman Rishnachuk and Nazar Zasensky. Now, remember, the Roman Rishak was the one that called the icons of Christ that he looked like a nerd. He wasn't tough enough, And so Yasenet says that they are considered very good people, effective organizers, and great patriots. He says for a long time they have received their mitras, their crosses with decorations, all these church awards, and they also receive big money from their sponsors. Who are their sponsors? So they don't need anything. As long as they are loyal, as long as they are favored by the system, they receive rather big financial amounts. I can say that because I see what types of cars they are driving, simple people and simple priests in Ukraine cannot afford such type of cars, he emphasized. According to him, these two men are not the only figures involved in seizures. There are also other priests who are organizing these seizures and attacks on the church. There is a priest, Ivan Chokalyuk, I guess, who is said to be the close relative of Metropolitan Epiphanios. There are several other priests, and from them, orthodoxy doesn't matter. Only this patriotic agenda is the only thing that matters. Okay, so that's more important to them, is the nationalism rather than serving God first. He says many popular chaplains are used to seizing these churches, so they bring a couple of warriors from the front line, very patriotic warriors. They come and say that we are the warriors who defend Ukraine, who fight against the Russian aggression, and here we have a hub of Russian agents of influence, and we have to drive them away. And then with the help of police and the help of local authorities, the fights begin, and if the local church community cannot gather enough people to defend themselves, usually the church building is taken away, and then this thing may be taken to court, but usually, since the courts are very corrupt in Ukraine, the decision remains with this national church, the OCU. Yaroslav Yasenets said, stressing that all of this disgraces the institution of chaplaincy and disgraces their priesthood. Now, he is a former OCU priest, quote unquote, because you can't really be a priest in this schismatic thing. So you can understand why I could no longer consider myself to be a part of them, he says. So that's important. He also considers the OCU monks in the Lavra he says they are employees of the preserve and receive salaries. He further says after a raid in Cherkasy, this is where it gets interesting. This is where the Phanar's second thoughts come into play. Now, if you don't remember, there was a terrible raid October 17, 2024 at St. Michael's Cathedral, Orthodox Cathedral. It's the canonical church, Ukrainian Orthodox Church in Cherkasy. That's where Father Theodosi was hurt. Okay, I mean not Father Metropolitan Theodosi was hurt. At the beginning, he was getting tear gassed and everything. I did a report on it a long time ago, but I haven't been able to find it in my older videos. But anyway, that's what that was about. Phanar was ready to revoke TOMOS. So that incident, that terrible raid that was beating up on the faithful there, and the terrible things going on, the Phanar, the Patriarch, was ready to revoke TOMOS. Okay? This is where he's signing the TOMOS of the OCU. Good Lord. According to Yasenets, the Phanar, the same man, the Phanar decided that, this is the guy that left the OCU, the Phanar decided that revoking the TOMOS would deal a serious blow to its reputation. That's what they cared about, their reputation. Revoking the TOMOS would deal a serious blow to its reputation. Okay, so Yaroslav, as I said, he's a former OCU priest, quote unquote. He said that after the violent seizure of the UOC's St. Michael's Cathedral in Cherkasy, Patriarch Bartholomew convened a synod at which the possibility of revoking the TOMOS was discussed. Okay, this is a huge deal that he's saying here. This is a really big deal. And it's certainly believable. And I just thought, wow, okay, we're seeing something here that we hadn't seen before under the hood, as they say. So let's see. They even discussed the possibility of revoking the TOMOS, but in the end, they decided it would seriously damage their reputation. So apparently their reputation was more important than admitting to a grave error and just trying to fix that so that this type of stuff wouldn't happen again. First, they granted the TOMOS, and now they would take it away. That's how their reputation would look like. Yes, you'd have to be honest. Yes, I made a mistake. It was the wrong move. It did not bear good fruit. This was not of the Holy Spirit. My decision was not right. That's what he should do. That would look unserious. The whole world would laugh. Laugh? Okay, maybe some would laugh, but people who understand our faith would be like, oh, this is good. He's come to his senses. He has sobered up to what has happened. So they decided to leave the TOMOS with Epiphany. But they were very concerned that instead of uniting Orthodoxy in Ukraine, he was dividing it. Well, isn't it nice to know that they recognized that? They recognized that that was their concern, right? Can you believe this? This is their concern. Oh my gosh, it could divide the church instead of bringing it together, like we're forcing in the schismatics to join, and this kind of violent seizure could cause division. Really? But at the same time, we do not want our reputation ruined and tainted. Everybody will laugh at us. Does this sound like a spiritual leader to you? Kudos to the fact that he recognized this and that it bothered him. He still has somewhat of a conscience. This is good. His conscience there. I pray for him, and I just hope that this does change through that. But, well, what's your thoughts? I'm sure you've got a lot of thoughts going on in your head. Okay. He also noted that Patriarch Bartholomew regrets having granted the TOMOS. Look at that. Regrets having granted the TOMOS. Well, I wonder how long it took him to actually figure that out. Was it just the pressure from the State Department that said, no, you got his freedom of the churches, you got to do it? Who else was around him, persuading him to do this? According to Yaroslav Yasenets, the Patriarch told Epiphany, I gave you the TOMOS to unite the Orthodox, and you are dividing them. Well. Another important reveal. I gave you the TOMOS to unite the Orthodox, and you are dividing them. Well, I'm wondering, does Patriarch Bartholomew realize that when you try to bring a group of defrocked and not fake priests, they have no apostolic succession, they have no authority to become in the position they were put in? Does he realize that, with schismatics, were you expecting something better? They weren't there for a reason. They weren't in the church for a reason. Okay? But he's regretting it. If only he would go further. Okay. According to the former OCU cleric, there is serious tension between Epiphany Demenko and Patriarch Bartholomew. Another huge reveal. This man has nothing to lose, to be honest, after he's left the schismatic church. Maybe he's feeling remorse. Like I said, he didn't want to be involved with all of the money exchange and all that. And the whole system of seizing these churches, his own conscience hit him, I'm sure. But serious tension between those two. When asked how well, of course, I find that weird because he was at the Romanian, or at the church in Romania, when they had that big celebration. There was the relics, I forget, I think it was St. Gregory of Palamas, but I'm not sure. It was brought there for the first time. It was a historical event, and he was there with a few other, several other patriarchs, and, obviously priests and things like that, monks, and of course a whole audience of people, thousands. And he even said in the service that he commemorated Domenko there. And, he got the anathema yell from somebody. But here it says he had tension. So he doesn't want to look bad. So, of course, it sounds to me like because he doesn't want to look bad, he's just pretending now. Is that really honest? When asked how well informed the Constantinople Patriarchate is about the scale of the seizures of the UOC churches, Yenisets replied that they know everything there. They know everything there. So the patriarch is not left in the dark. It's not like the people under him are just, veiling him, keeping him in the dark on all this. They know. They know, right? They know. But are not in a position to seriously influence the situation. They're not in a position. They're not in a position. Well, he's the one that wrote this. He's the one that signed this. He's the one that can revoke it, right? As far as I know, they tried to resolve these issues, but Epiphany now feels like the master of everything. And that's what happens. And since he is supported by the state, it is very difficult to change anything. I think Patriarch Bartholomew is not even trying to do anything now, the former OCU cleric said. I think perhaps he is praying and hoping that the situation will change, but I know that he and many bishops are dissatisfied with this. Okay, so we're, all this is being revealed. So he doesn't have the strength to try to do something, to even speak out about it, to try to make this change. He also reported that relations between the ecumenical patriarch's exarch, Bishop Michael, Anishchenko, and Epiphany are very tense, quote unquote. They have not celebrated the liturgy together for a long time. They used to serve together often, but now they do not. This can be seen from the photographs. Also says, according to Yesenets, the OCU even ordains people who do not know the creed. Well, again, you have these people that were not, they're schismatics. They're schismatics because they left, they got involved in other things that should not be part of the church. They left the church, and then they have this ego now, this pride of trying to, we're big stuff now. We have this, I'm the head of the church. You know how it is with power and money. Money is the root of all evil, they say. But the point is, it's very hard. What is that saying? Absolute power absolutely corrupts absolutely, or something like that. Yeah, for the most part, it does. There's very few in power that are able to not fall into that sin, that trap. So we find out the patriarch's aware of all this. The people in the Phanar are aware of this. That he regrets writing the TOMOS, signing the TOMOS. That he feels that the churches are being divided. The church is being divided down there in the Ukrainian church. Well, he's aware of this. Let's pray that God gives him the strength, enlightens him, enlightens his darkness so that he can, in the darkness, it's the confusion that's in him, and that he does the right thing. Don't know, but that's what I wanted to share with you today. I thought it was pretty important news. It seemed like quite a change from what we understood. And wow, okay, I just, pretty amazing, don't you think? So, yeah, share your thoughts on this. I'm sure you're thinking, whoa, what's going on here? And I'm a lot of thoughts on this. I am guessing. Thanks so much for watching, for following my channel, and click that notification bell so you can get my videos right when they come out. If you haven't subscribed yet, please consider subscribing to my channel. I hope this was informative.